Hello and welcome to this session on modern Western philosophy. Today we will be discussing the German philosopher Leibniz and the doctrine of substance. What is the basic substance of this universe is one of the fundamental questions of philosophy. Metaphysics, especially ontology, is the branch of philosophy which discusses this issue. The term substance comes from the Latin root sub, which means under, and stare, which means stand. So, substance literally means that which stands under. There are many disputes concerning the idea behind this term. The substance of a thing may be its essence or that which makes it what it is. It is that which exists by itself or does not need a subject for existence in the way that properties need objects. Substance is one of those concepts, issues that have been widely discussed since ancient Greek period in the West. It forms one of the important philosophical issues in metaphysics. Philosophers have been speculating on substance and have produced a wide variety of interpretations on the same theme. Substance can be defined as something that stands under or as something that grounds things. From a common sense view, substance is nothing but the bearer of properties. By substance, what philosophers mean is that ontological basic unit from which everything else originates. On the basis of the idea of substance, there are mainly three views: monism, dualism and pluralism. Monism believes that this universe is made out of a single basic substance. Dualism emphasizes the existence of two basic substances like mind and matter. Pluralism put forward the idea that this world is a product of innumerable substances. Speculations on substance can be traced in the ancient Greek philosophy itself. While for Thales, the basic stuff is water, it is a form of air for Anaximenes. Anaximander puts forth the idea that the ultimate substance is an indeterminate stuff. For Atomus, it was nothing but atoms from which everything else originated. In Categories, his work, Aristotle introduced the idea of primary substance, secondary substance and other predictables. But in his work Metaphysics, he explained substance in terms of form and matter. Substance is a composite of form and matter according to Aristotle. Coming to ancient Indian philosophy, the Vedas and the Upanishads, they believe in Panchabhutas. The universe is made out of 5 elements, namely earth, water, fire, air and ether. Charvaka rejects ether and they believed in Chaturbhutas or 4 elements. Vaisheshika and Jainism believe in innumerable atoms. Sankhya school believed in dualism, that is, that the main substances are Prakriti and Purusha. Though substance remained a matter of discussion in medieval period also, it was rationalists and empiricists who made speculations on substance that directly led to the contemporary debates on this matter. The rationalists and empiricists approached the notion of substance with their contrasting views. Rationalists never maintained substance as individual objects of day-to-day life. For Descartes, there are 2 substances, mind and body. The main attribute of the mind is thought and the body is extension. He said that the body cannot think and the mind cannot extend. For Spinoza, if substance is that which need nothing other than itself to exist, it is definitely God. So, God is the one and only substance according to Spinoza. Everything else depends upon him. The things of our experience is nothing but the modes of this single substance. Spinoza identifies God with nature, that is, God is nature and nature is God. So, his philosophy culminates in pantheism. In short, for rationalists, substance is fundamental. For Spinoza, it is God or nature, and for Descartes, it is mind and matter. And for Leibniz, it is innumerable monads. For the empiricists, substance is nothing but that in which properties reside. The following is the exposition of Leibniz's view of substance, since it forms one of those accounts in Western philosophy generally and particularly in rationalism. Let's look a little bit about rationalism now. Rationalism is a 17th century philosophical position that asserts the role of reason as the main source as well as the test of knowledge. Reason is taken into consideration for receiving and justifying knowledge. Here, the criterion of truth is not experience but reason. So, rationalists believe that knowledge is innate. It relies on the idea that reality has a rational structure, in that all aspects of it can be grasped through mathematical and logical principles. So it emphasizes the supremacy of reason over experience. The rationalists considered knowledge as a priori or before experience. In short, the criterion of truth, according to rationalists, is deductive in nature. Rationalism identifies those rational principles which lie fundamental in various realms of philosophy such as metaphysics, epistemology, ethics, logic, mathematics, etc. It is said that Pythagoras was the first thinker in Western philosophy who stressed rationalist insight. The intensifying of rational insight above perception was prominent in Plato's philosophy also. René Descartes, the father of modern philosophy, gave reason a prominent role and it became a school. Besides him, Spinoza and Leibniz are the major thinkers of rationalism. In its philosophical implications, rationalism as a position does not go well with empiricism. But it should also be noted that in its broad sense, rationalism and empiricism cannot be considered mutually exclusive. In its strict sense, empiricism asserts that ideas are attained a posteriori, after experience. It means external senses or inner sensations are responsible for knowledge. In short, knowledge has its foundation in experience according to empiricism. But for rationalists, knowledge is gained a priori. The three major thinkers of rationalism have different opinions about substance, and they gave rise to three metaphysical schools based on their differing views. They are monism, dualism and pluralism. Spinoza believed that the basic substance of this universe is one, so he is the well-known monist. Cartesian dualism put forward the idea that the basic substances are dual. Leibniz rejects both these views and emphasized that the multiplicity of substances, which he called monads. Let's look at Leibniz's life now. Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz was born in 1646 at Leipzig in Germany, where his father held a professor's chair. Having chosen law for his profession, he entered the university in 1661. He defended his doctoral thesis in 1663. His dissertation was titled De Principio Individui. Thereafter, he went to Jena, later to Altdorf, where he took the degree of Doctor of Laws. In 1672, he was sent to Paris on a diplomatic mission. By the time he returned to Germany, he had met several important philosophers and had discovered infinitesimal calculus. Once back in Germany, he continued to make varied and valuable intellectual contributions. He made calculating machines, drew up plans for the development of a universal encyclopedia that would contain everything that was thus far known, wrote Latin poetry, funded alchemical research, and undertook studies on the origin of languages. During his life, he made original contributions to physics, mathematics, logic, geology, law, politics, economics, and linguistic philosophy. Leibniz's eventful life finally came to an end in Hanover on 14th November 1716. He is one of the 17th century German rationalists who contributed to the realm of philosophy in general and Western philosophy in particular with his philosophical speculations. His contributions to the field of mathematics, physics, ethics, logic and theology are remarkable. He is considered as the polymath of the greatest genius that ever lived, second only to Aristotle. It is because of these contributions that Leibniz occupies a prominent place in the history of philosophy and also in the history of mathematics. Leibniz's metaphysical speculations are largely characterized by optimism because of his conception that this world is the best possible one that God could have created. Leibniz is regarded as one of the greatest advocates of 17th century rationalism along with Descartes and Spinoza. The principle of sufficient reason, the law of contradiction and the identity of indiscernible are the three self-evident principles that make the metaphysical system of Leibniz extremely rich in its content. Apart from these, Leibniz incorporated predicate in subject theory of truth into his system. In its extreme sense, the universe includes God and other monads alone. In this extreme sense, all other notions like causation, space, time and matter are all illusions. Causation is explained in terms of the harmony which has been pre-established by God. Leibniz made several important contributions to mathematics and his work now has been developed and named topology. Yet another contribution of Leibniz was in the form of the invention of calculus. Bertrand Russell has stated that Leibniz made this invention independent of Sir Isaac Newton. Leibniz developed his ideas by taking cues from materialists, Aristotelians and Cartesians. His major works are Meditations on Knowledge, Truth and Ideas, which was published in 1684, Discourse on Metaphysics 1686, Primary Truths 1689, New System 1695, Specimen Dynamicum 1695, On the Ultimate Origination of Things 1697, On Nature Itself 1698, New Essays on Human Understanding 1704, Theodicy 1710, Monadology 1714 and The Principles of Nature and Grace 1714. Let's now analyze Leibniz's doctrine of substance. Substance is one of the concepts which philosophers have been interested in since the ancient Greek period. In its philosophical sense, the term substance corresponds to the Greek term ousia, which can be translated as being. In Latin, it is substantia, which means something that stands under or grounds things. Like many other philosophical problems, the problem of substance also has different answers. Substance in a particular system is the fundamental entity of reality of that system. Substances are nothing but the basic things from which everything is constructed. The problem of substance has been discussed widely by various philosophers. In modern Western philosophy, it was the rationalists who dealt with the concept of substance in a positive way. The attempts made by Descartes, Spinoza and Leibniz to frame their own theories of substance are notable. Descartes defined substance as, and I quote, a thing which exists in such a way to stand in need of nothing beyond itself. There exists only one absolutely independent substance, namely God, and all other substances are his creation. The dualism of Descartes applies to created substances. Descartes speculated God as absolute substance and mind and body as relative or created substances. Mind and matter or soul substance and corporeal substance or thinking substance and bodily substance are two independent and separate entities. Each substance has one principal attribute. Thinking is the chief characteristic of mind and extension is the prime attribute of the body. In other words, thinking substance like soul or mind has the quality of non-spatial consciousness, whereas corporeal substance has the quality of filling space and spatiality. Spinoza held that if there is a substance at all, it must both depend upon itself and provide the ground for everything else. Therefore, such a substance can only be God, since only God possesses the characteristics of being at once self-caused and the cause of everything. Hence, for Spinoza, there can be only one substance. The existence of this one substance has been demonstrated by Spinoza by means of ontological argument. The one substance of God is thought of as being God and nature. God is the entire universe, since everything that issues from him is part of him. Spinoza refers to the one universal substance as God or nature according as to whether it is spiritual or material. Such a theory is monistic. He wanted to overcome the dualism between mind and body as advocated by Descartes. Leibniz was dissatisfied with the conception of substance as it was developed by Descartes and Spinoza. The doctrine of substance developed by Leibniz can be explained thus. Leibniz was greatly impressed by the unity which Spinoza had emphasized in his philosophy. But unfortunately, Spinoza did so at the cost of variety and the individuality of things. Leibniz's problem is, what must be the nature of parts which can in some way contain or express the whole thing within itself? In order to account for the reality in which individual things are real, he begins with the notion of substance. So, Leibniz presents the doctrine of substance starting with his doctrine of pluralism. The reason behind the introduction of the doctrine of substance was nothing but the urge to account for the reality in which individual things are real. In Leibniz's words, the adoption of the definition of substance given by Descartes led to the dangerous pantheism of Spinoza. By criticizing Cartesian notion of substance, Leibniz maintained that extension is not real. Since extension is always divisible, it cannot lead to something which is indivisible. Extension is composite in nature and it can never provide us with true unity. While this world is dynamic, extension is passive. It is difficult to explain rest in things, though it is accepted that it is God who imparted the first motion. Hence, Leibniz established the reality of a force which is more ultimate. Leibniz, in a way, modified Cartesian notion of mind in order to explain the variety of experience. He defined the ultimate substance in terms of mind and included the unconscious states also. He included the unconscious states so that a reconciliation of animate and inanimate can be expected. For Leibniz, reality can be spiritual only since attributing a thing as conscious and extended is equal to say that the two contradictory qualities are true of the same thing. Leibniz further maintained that reality is many and each is real and eternal. The whole which is real is explained only in terms of real parts. The real spiritual elements are termed monads in Leibniz's philosophy. Monads are self-active and indivisible. Monads alone are real. Thus, Leibniz used the term monad to point out his substance. Monad means that which is one, which has no parts and thus indivisible. Leibniz's theory of monad is rightly considered to be one of the alternatives to the doctrine of atoms that was prevalent at the time. But it is to be noted that the doctrine of monads, as it was developed by Leibniz, possesses certain notable differences from the doctrine of atoms of the 17th century. The most significant difference is that while atoms are considered the smallest unit of extension, monads are speculated as non-extended and they are spiritual in nature. Implications of the doctrine of substance developed by Leibniz raises issues involved in the philosophy of mind such as dualism, mind-body interaction, etc. Materialism in its strictest sense asserts the view that material things alone exist. In its application to philosophy of mind, materialism holds that mental states are identical to physical states. He rejected both materialism and dualism and speculated on mind and body in his own peculiar way. The primary reason behind the rejection of materialism is nothing but his conception that perception cannot be given mechanical explanations. Leibniz rejected the bifurcation between extended material substance and unextended thinking substance. He developed his arguments against Cartesian dualism from his rejection of extended material substance. In Leibniz's conception, material bodies are nothing but aggregates. An aggregate can never be a substance since it lacks unity. Leibniz maintained the view that this world is constituted of one type of substance, but it is to be noted that there are infinitely innumerable substances of that type. While some of these substances are endowed with thought and consciousness, others are not endowed with these. So, in Leibniz's view, the real element must be spiritual, and these spiritual units are nothing but monads. There are innumerable monads, but each monad is as real as the single substance of Spinoza. The monads are eternal and can be destroyed only by the miracle of God. Monad has no parts, so it is indivisible. It is self-contained and exclusive of everything else. Each monad is considered as the world in miniature, a macrocosm in a microcosm. It contains within itself the possibility of everything which happens to it. Each monad mirrors the world. Every activity is reflected either in vague or in clear form according to the nature of the monad. Being a self-contained unit, it excludes all other monads. Each monad is a world apart, all by itself. It is windowless, nothing can come in or go out. No two monads are alike. This is Leibniz's principle of identity of the discernibles. The monads are in a hierarchical order of existence. Monads, being spiritual, have two important characteristics, perception and appetition. It is with the perception that monads mirror the whole infinity of existence. If a monad is more developed, then it will have relatively clear perception. The less developed monads can have only a confused perception. Different degrees of perception may be present in the same monad according to its stage of development. It is by virtue of the characteristic of appetition that each monad, which is a force, tends to become the whole. Appetition makes a monad pass from vague to clear perception. The monads are found in a continuous series, one imperceptibly passing into the other. The lowest or bare monads are those in which perception is the most obscure. They go to make the inorganic bodies. They are scarcely more than centers of forces, and they express themselves in the form of motion which appears to us purely mechanical. They may be said to be in deep sleep. Then there are conscious monads endowed with memory. These may be called souls. They build the plant and the animal world. The highest monads are called spirits, having reason and universal necessary knowledge. They are raised to the knowledge of the self as well as of God. The difference between monad is one of degree. In the bare monads, the force appears in the form of mechanical movement. In the animal, appetition is expressed in the form of instincts, and in the spirits, the force is found in the form of self-consciousness, desire and will. In this hierarchical order, the higher includes the lower. Self-consciousness emerges out of consciousness and includes certain perceptions which remain obscure. In order to explain the interrelated nature of things, Leibniz introduced the doctrine of pre-established harmony. Every monad is independent of other monads, but they are synchronized by God. It does not mean that a monad affects another. The concept of pre-established harmony was explained by Leibniz with the example of two clocks which strike at the same time because each keeps perfect time. Leibniz has an infinite number of clocks, all arranged by the Creator to strike at the same instant, not because they affect each other, but because each is a perfectly accurate mechanism. To those who thought pre-established harmony odd, Leibniz pointed out what admirable evidence is afforded of the existence of God by this theory. To summarize, Leibniz's concept of substance has a very important role in philosophy, particularly in metaphysics. His ontology could expose the limitation of Cartesian dualism and monism of Spinoza. He is one of the major proponents of pluralism and atomism. According to him, the real substance of this universe are innumerable atoms of forces. He called these spiritual atoms monads. Monads are eternal, self-contained and windowless. Pre-established harmony orchestrated by God has synchronized them. It is not possible to think that Leibniz's view of substance is beyond limitation. But in spite of its limitation, his speculations about substance has a vast influence upon the philosophy after him. Now let us discuss some of the assignments that you might engage in order to expand your understanding of Leibniz's philosophy. Explain the doctrine of substance with a special emphasis on the conceptions developed by Leibniz. How does the doctrine of substance enrich the metaphysical notions of Leibniz? Briefly explain the significance of Leibniz and his theory of substance in Western philosophy. Explain the notion of substance in Leibniz and its implication for philosophy of mind. How far the doctrine of substance developed by Leibniz is different from that of Descartes. For further references and to expand your knowledge further, these are some of the books that you can refer. A Critical History of Western Philosophy by Y. Massey, published by Motilal Banarsidass, 1999. A History of Western Philosophy by Bertrand Russell, Simon & Schuster, published in 1967. A History of Philosophy by Frank Tilly, Central Publishing House, 1989. Modern Philosophy by Albert Schweigler, K.P. Bagchi & Co., 1982. You can also refer to these websites www.iep.edu/leib-ove/ www.uni-hanover.de/en/ or www.mindmeister.com. Thank you for watching this session. See you next time. Until then, bye.